Federal Drive is presented by GEHA, Government Employees Health Association, proudly providing health and dental benefits to federal employees and their families. Visit GEHA.com.
Congress left town with an agreement on the budget resolution, but tough decisions loom when they return. Federal News Network's Terry Gerton broke down the workload with Bloomberg Government's Deputy News Director, Lauren Duggan.
So, Lauren, we're headed into a 2-week congressional recess, so we can all catch our breath. But the last few days have been pretty busy up on the Hill. What have you been watching?
Absolutely. There's been big votes around the budget, some discussions about nominations, and really setting the stage for action for the rest of the year when they're going to try and move Donald Trump's agenda forward, as well as what they want to do. So kind of setting the stage for later, letting tourists have the run of the place for a couple of weeks and then getting back down to work.
I run into buses of those high schoolers on spring break all the time, so I know what that's going to look like. But let's take each one of those topics that you just mentioned. Let's start first with confirmations. There have been a lot of hearings and some votes, so agencies are finally going to be getting their leadership on board.
That's right. They took care of all the top level, department level cabinet jobs, and then they've been working through departments, deputy secretaries, undersecretaries, people like that. And still a lot more to go, obviously, given all the positions that are open. When they come back, the Senate's going to start working on more ambassador picks, including the ambassador to China. Big deal right now with all the discussions going on there with tariffs and everything else. And they'll also work through some more of the agencies that don't have leadership yet, which there are a number of those. So a lot still to go on the confirmation front.
But at least last week we saw the OPM nominee get a hearing.
Got a hearing and probably votes when they come back, and they'll be looking for floor action on those. A big one right before they left overnight, actually, from Thursday into Friday, the Senate confirmed the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman, big pick, helping to set military policy at a kind of uncertain time. So got that person confirmed and in place, and we'll be looking for ambassadors in particular, I think, when they come back. And there's still a lot to go for sure.
Well, those ambassadors are going to have a lot to talk about with all of the tariff discussion. How has that topic been influencing the conversations on the Hill?
Well, there's been a couple of different threads. One is some members of Congress want to assert themselves in this process. Over time, the power over tariffs has kind of shifted to the president and the administration. Some people want to claw that back or put a review process in. We saw a vote a couple weeks ago from a resolution by Tim Kaine to turn off the Canadian tariffs by canceling the emergency. The House responded by turning off the rules that would have allowed a quick vote. But there is some bipartisanship around some maybe review apparatus or way where they could be notified by the administration, look at that and see if they want to approve that or maybe block them before they move forward. Not sure that's going to move forward. President Trump issued a veto threat, which was rare for a bill that's not even really scheduled for a vote yet, but he's kind of laying down a marker there. And then, of course, there's been a couple of questions just about the timing and what it all means and, the on again, off again nature of the tariffs being hard for people to plan around, whether they're businesses or our foreign partners. So lots of different threads and themes on tariffs on the Hill, even if there hasn't been a ton of action yet.
Well, didn't it kind of show up in the House discussions about whether or not they were going to take a vote on the Senate resolution, on the budget resolution, if I've got all those moving pieces right?
So many resolutions. Yeah, it did. There was a piece of language in the rule governing floor debate for the budget resolution that turned off the special procedures on a measure to kill the big series of tariffs on April 2nd. They had already turned them off for the Canada and Mexico ones earlier in the year. So yeah, that did influence the budget resolution debate just a little bit, even though they were more focused on the dollars and cents that come down in that piece of legislation.
Well, and what is going to happen next on the budget resolution? I mean, they got a vote, they passed it, they're going to take their 2 weeks off, but they've got to come to some kind of agreement on the very different perspectives between the House and the Senate.
Absolutely. It took months to get to this point, and this was the easy part. That's the thing that stands out to me. This was about agreeing to the numbers and the parameters, and they sort of agreed to disagree enough that they could get this over the line. What the House and Senate committees now have to do is write bills that amend tax law and amend spending law to match what was in that resolution. On the tax side, there's more consensus, extend what's in place and look for some other cuts. The spending side is, I think, where the fight's really going to be, because the resolutions call for deep cuts, particularly the House one, and that could be in a lot of government programs across the board. And the one that I think a lot of people are focused on is $880 billion out of the Energy and Commerce Committee. And there's an analysis out there that says you can't cut that deep without doing something on Medicaid. That can be a lot of different things, and that's what they're going to have to fill in the blanks on. But that's really going to be a long discussion, but can't be too long because there's some deadlines coming up that they need to report this legislation and get it going on the House and Senate floors.
I'm speaking with Lauren Duggan, the Deputy News Director of Bloomberg Government. So, Lauren, let's follow that a minute because this budget resolution is really still for 25. It's going to impact planning for 26. We haven't seen the president's 26 budget, and agencies are sitting here in the middle not knowing what's going to happen with their 26 resources. So how is all that going to play out?
Yeah, it is an interesting time. And then you layer on top of that the things that the Department of Government Efficiency is doing and recommending, and maybe some rescissions packages going around, clawing back some money that's already in place. So there's a lot of budget threads. That fiscal 2026 process is almost divorced entirely from the resolution they adopted last week, which was more for the procedural niceties of getting that tax and spending bill set up. But we're waiting for a budget request from the administration, all the hearings that then follow, so that Congress can write the appropriations bills and get those things moving, because that's always a big part of the summer, and they really haven't gotten any of those balls rolling yet to do those 12 spending bills and defense authorization over on the other side, which is a very important one as well.
Well, there's some news that seems to be starting to leak out about 2026 plans, because that's going to be where they put the longer term strategies for department agencies in place. And one of them is a massive reduction in NASA's science budget. So are those the kinds of things that you think we're going to be seeing over the next few weeks?
Probably so. And, a lot of this work will have started under the Biden administration, where agencies start coming up with plans. And then when the Trump team came in, they gave different directions. So we're going to see a lot of curtailing in a lot of agencies, both because that's the orientation of the people in charge, but also the size of government has been reduced already through curtailing or even trying to eliminate some departments and agencies. And we'll be looking to see how that pans out. What does a Department of Education budget request look like when you want to get rid of most of the department? That's a pretty big question, and something that we'll be looking very closely at as these details start to emerge.
Well, the passing of a resourcing strategy for the government is perhaps job number one for Congress, but they're working on lots of other things. What else is on the agenda?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the social issues are going to come back. Right before they left, they are looking at, how to deal with gender identity in schools and issues like that. There's all the contracting changes they want to make, even a bill that would put Gulf of America into law, which is taking a congressional spin on something that the Trump administration started right away. So, there's a lot that they want to do to help the Trump agenda get over, and then they want to do their own investigations and priorities as well. So there's a lot on the plate beyond just the dollars and cents kind of government funding issues we've talked about.
Now, the last time the members of Congress went home on recess, they were holding town halls and hearing a lot from constituents. Is that going to be part of what you think they're going to be working on while they've got these 2 weeks away from the national capital?
Probably this is a good time for people to also do trips somewhere, congressional delegations or CODELs, but they'll be home for part of it. And, even if they don't do a town hall, they do go to the grocery store and go outside. And I'm sure we'll hear from constituents about tariffs and spending and other issues like that. Some members are going into the other party's turf. So we have Democrats talking about going into purple or maybe even reddish districts where they will lay out their priorities and try to counter the elected representatives there with a different perspective. So people are going to hit the road over these 2 weeks and do a number of different things, including advocating for their party's positions.
That's Lauren Duggan, Bloomberg Government's Deputy News Director. We'll post this interview on federalnewsnetwork.com/Federal Drive.